Greetings, sending you all some warm, positive vibrations from the garden. So, yeah, I want to send you some warm vibrations. So, today, what I wanted to touch on and communicate about is your hair is ugly. So on this channel, by the way, this is Body-Culinary. On this channel, I share a journey of radical self-acceptance as well as encouraging folks to start a garden because everyone can grow something, even if you're in a city in a small apartment. I encourage folks to cultivate a personal movement practice for so many reasons. It has so many benefits, as well as I really have a love affair with fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables create prepared in so many different types of creative ways has really been enjoyable as well as life-saving, coming from a family of morbid obesity and diabetes. And so, yeah, those are the types of things that I share on this channel. Any kinds of things that we have access to that we can do and implement as a lifestyle that is soothing and self-care, that is healthy food, but beyond even food. Those are the things that I share on this channel. So today I wanted to just share, and anything I share here is just one woman's experience. If anything resonates, take it, run with it. If not, leave it right here. You can leave it right here. So I just wanted to share, communicate about your hair is ugly. So coming up, in school, I didn't see, the hair that is sprouting organically out of my head. I didn't even really know what it looked like or what it could look like. I would have never fathomed the idea that my hair I could just wash and go like some of our other fellow human beings. I would have never imagined, I was raised culturally on, especially in the Afro side of my family, that we have experience also in the States. The culture that I grew up in was watching us having to experience severe burns with scalding hot combs on Sundays in preparation for church to get our hair done, only to have it undone in a few minutes. And I mean, we really got scabs and some serious, actually, if we think about it, small third-degree burns, second degree, as well as scalp burns from perms. But more so than that, just psychologically, really set the stage for low esteem. Now, let me say that I can appreciate a full face of makeup. I can appreciate just style and creativity and hair colors, and whether folks have it kinky, wavy, straight. I'm just saying from one experience, what I can identify very clearly as I just play the tape back on all the teasing. And there were some words, that were hurled back and forth, like iganaps, igger. I'm gonna leave out the other letter, apps, and the derogatory. If we think about it, the shame and the harassment and the teasing that we got for our natural hair. I'm so grateful that we're in a time where there have been courageous folks. Shout out to all the folks that are Rasta, because we do know that they were actually persecuted and bullied and harassed and sometimes even beaten and killed for wearing what simply grows out of our head, which is really kind of crazy. But human beings were an interesting species. So in contemplating this unique beauty stamp, it has been a journey of what I call radical self-acceptance. How dare I go outside with no styling gel, no baby hair? And I can appreciate some nice baby hair. I used to wear it back in the day with a toothbrush. But just to really sit in full acceptance and to consciously and intentionally retrain my eye to appreciate what's growing out of my head, and kind of close my ears to the noise coming from companies that, although they show smiling faces on boxes of products, are not made with my health in mind, the health of my scalp, or the health of my internal organs. It does say on the package, many of these packages of caustic chemicals, that you should not be using them if you're with child. And there has been evidence that links many of the caustic chemicals that alter permanently alter the texture of our hair, to fibroid tumors, which, as someone who has worked in a holistic health center, was a complaint of many, many women, in particular Afro women mostly, were coming in with complaints. And so there are many different factors that contribute to them, but it has been there have been studies that link a lot of the caustic chemicals, especially the ones we're putting on our head, and which is porous, the skin is right near our brain, near the control center. So without demonizing or making anything wrong, because I definitely used to wear it, and again, I can appreciate the styles and looks. I know for me, health is number one, my organs and my physical temple. Also, what's driving a lot of the behavior is the psyche, the psychology. And I know, I can tell you, as a little girl, I felt horrible. I remember seeing one little chocolate girl in my neighborhood when I was a little girl. She had a short little what we call now TWA, teeny weeny afro. Oh my God, she was stunning. She was gorgeous. And I remember she was so, oh, what was that? What did they used to say back? Oh, they used to call this a baldy bean. Baldy bean, baldy bean. And it may sound like such a light thing, but when you were teased as a child, that is really, it's really traumatizing. By the way, that's something that we need to apply some correction to, some corrective action to, and some insight in our community. But I remember her being teased, and she was absolutely stunning. She was stunning. And even though she may have been supported in her home, when she came outside to the playground, she was harassed and teased. Oh my gosh, she was gorgeous. So we go through a lot of torturous harassment. And I would say it's only in recent decades that it has really started to change. It has really started to change. I would say also, one of the reasons, as I touched on in maybe 2 videos ago, I'm calling these AFROLOCS. Now, again, as I've said, we don't own hair and styles. Anybody that doesn't comb their hair can mat and can so-called lock. However, I think it's really important. Representation is really a good foundation for healthy esteem. When I say representation, it is very important to see ourselves, right? And not to wait for other folks. And to be quite honest, it's not actually other folks' responsibility to give us that representation and provide that healthy representation for what we need and what we want to show and model to our children, young boys and young girls, to see us really comfortable in our skin and just really loving on ourselves. You know, that comes from within. So it goes without saying, through so much cultural trauma, and as we are now in a space of crafting our own rebirth and writing our own prescription for healing, a lot of that is going to come, and it's coming from us, right? Rather than waiting for TV companies and for beauty products, so-called beauty product companies, a lot of it's going to come from us. So fortunately, we're starting to see that. And so I asked a question with this, what I'm calling AFROLOCS, right? Because we've had a unique life experience. We've had a unique psychological experience. We've had a unique, even I would say, damage done to our psyche. The folks walking around with this unique beauty stamp, with this Afro textured cotton coming out of our heads. So it's been very freeing. I would say I've been released from hair gel. Just being able to really not only, you know, experience length and see how the hair finally behaves as I leave it alone, and see, you know, give myself the opportunity to see what it does and to feel confident. And I feel at this point I can walk into any company, I can dress it up, dress it down, and also I just don't have to do things to myself to feel or to be beautiful. You know, and that's huge. That's huge. That's really, really huge. And for any of those folks that may have adopted chocolate Afro children, this is something to consider. You know, culturally, that what we have gone through, a lot of trauma and stress around our hair, the lack of acceptance. And that's why I call it radical self-acceptance. And it's something that maybe many of us adults, or maybe the popular culture, has been afraid to acknowledge it. Yet it needs acknowledging. These mosquitoes are biting me a little bit. So, you know, I have a question. I wonder, and folks can chime in respectfully if you like. I wonder if or how might, something to contemplate, maybe perhaps a community discussion, how might radical self-acceptance in all the textures, and I'm saying it particularly, we come in all different shades and colors, and we have all different types of curl and wave patterns, but we know the type of hair that's called 4C to Z, or what I like to term, right, because I'm very particular, I make the effort to be particular about words that give me a good feeling. I would say of Afro, and I'm calling it AFROLOCS. That's what I'm calling it. How might radical self-acceptance of this cotton, right, really a celebration, can it make a difference in the world? Now, that may sound so corny, or like, is it really that deep? I would say it is. I would say it is. And as I reason with it, I think it could have a far-reaching ripple effect in the sense of, and here's just a couple of things I have considered, that this Afro cotton, right, the whole psyche, what this does to our psyche, that radical self-acceptance of these Afro locks in our hair, it could really help to, and it's another term I came up with it, I just came up with afronomics, right? In wanting to see us around the world, Afro women flourish. I mean, really, not just survive, not just be accepted, but to really walk and bask in our glory, like really just feel just regal and healed. Not only that, but also to be flourishing economically, because economics and security are a fact of life. Economics and security for women and girls is a fact of life. And so being able to secure ourselves economically, this is a unique beauty mark, and it has this affects our entire lives. This hair, it's $1 trillion industry. Y'all let me know if any of y'all got any of the figures, the current figures on how much we spend on our hair. No matter what's going on, we know Afro folks, we're going to get our hair done. If that's put some braids in it, some extensions in it, whatever. So imagine, let's imagine this. Let's imagine this, right? Now we know that as far as we hear in history, Gandhi, when he was really looking to make some serious changes and foster independence, that Indian folks, our Indian fellow human beings, really start to dye and manufacture and weave their own cotton, right? And really use products that they had produced. And right now, there's, I think, the very proud people, and also there's, I think, even a resurgence. Is a channel that I love on YouTube. But really, I see a resurgence in that pride, right, in this global economy where everything is transporting back and forth across the waters, but just a pride in Ayurveda and in their culture and their traditions and their healing medicines. That's a lot of economics. I watch this, I can't think of this one guy. What's his name? I think he has a channel called FitTuber. Y'all check it out, right? And I have another idea for something, because I'm a lover of learning, but that's another. I digress. Anyway, when looking at this young man, FitTuber, I'm like, wow, there's so much that chocolate folks could learn from this channel, because in almost every video, he's talking about Ayurveda. He's talking about his culture. His culture is celebrated. And in particular, he directs folks, listen, all this stuff is going on, pandemic, lose weight, beauty. We got something right here coming out of India. We got something right here coming out of India. And so anybody else, because he has about 1 million subscribers, look how much interest that would generate in terms of people wanting to try these Indian products out. We could also see this with some of the Korean makeup. There's like a whole aesthetic around Korean porcelain skin and clear skin. So culturally, they have their value and their unique beauty stamp. They have an offering out in the world. And so I live to see, the afronomics, y'all feel me? The afronomics of the even though we have shea butter and we've got black soap and we've got some pomades, we've got a footing, but there's so much potential, because shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson, Black Powernomics. The idea of vertical industries owning every aspect of production, right? From the packaging to the shipping containers to the the trucks that transport the products, right? Vertical industries. I invite you to consider, what are the possibilities for Afronomics if it's $1 trillion industry? Just think, visualize. You got the plastic containers, or the containers, maybe perhaps recyclable, I got a list, recyclable containers, earth-friendly containers, healthy products, the marketing, the production, which is already jobs, the accountants, all that spinning off of this. What are the possibilities of Afronomics? So, can radical self-acceptance of this make a difference? So, in terms of recirculating the economics of the folks with this unique beauty stamp back to those women and girls, which provides opportunities to purchase land and food and generate just so much more industry. Shout out also to she's an ancestor now, Wangari Maathai, if y'all don't know about her, because you know I love growing food and I'm all about growing food. There's a documentary called Dirt. Check it out. And check out Wangari Maathai. She won a Nobel Peace Prize for reforesting Africa, right? Because we know about the deforestation from everybody constantly, how much more furniture we need, right? And just monocropping, over farming, just constantly taking resources from the earth without replenishing. Wangari Maathai, she's from Kenya. She decided to go back with her education and go back to Africa and get some sisters from the hood and say, let's start planting trees. Let's start planting trees. And the outcome, now, mind you, some folks said that it can't be done. And she said, well, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure we can. All we got to just put the seeds in the ground. So, long story short, these women were really instrumental in reforesting, right? And so we know we have more trees, that's going to draw more water, and the earth will hold more moisture. These women were able to generate more businesses, and they started to eat healthier. So does that make sense, right? So go with me here. Number 2, in terms of, can radical self-acceptance make a difference, right? Just our health, right? Our physical health, right? Think about the amount of chemicals that we cannot pronounce. Now, if they're burning off your skin, and if they're leaving a deposit inside of your body and a residue in your body, what are the implications for cancer and even other diseases that we can't even think of in terms of all of these myriad of products going into the body? And being that we're on the receiving end of these products, we're going to get whatever the effects are, the side effects of these products. Then who would have a vested interest in cultivating a standard for health, right? A standard for health from the products that go on our hair and skin, right? And generating a standard. And when I say standard, I'll give an example. So as someone that's worked in health and fitness for many years, I work with all different types of people from all walks of life, all different types of cultural backgrounds. And I would say I'm the type of person I can learn from anyone. And, you know, and I respect other people's food, their religious and cultural beliefs. So I always have my eyes, my ears open. And with one of the groups of people that I worked on, I was very impressed that the children would not touch anybody else's food if it did not have a certain kind of, they would ask, is this so-and-so? Is this kosher? Is this kosher? If it wasn't kosher, they weren't touching it. Little babies. So there's a cultural standard that they have set. So I like to look at the principle of that. The principle of that is wide open. And I got an idea coming down the pipeline for that too, because I'm an idea person. And so instead of me asking the question all the time, if something is filtering through me, if something is filtering through you, then obviously that's your vision. That's something for you to manifest, right? Something for us to create. So the only ones that really have a vested interest in our health is going to be us. Because if somebody else does come out, or other companies or entities come out with something, usually it's going to be for profit. And I have this thing with, I might think I'm corny, but hey, whatever. Reenacting the ways of the mothers and the grandmothers. So y'all may know, if you haven't been on this channel for a minute, that I talk about Grandma Lou and my godparents all the time. And my grandma Lou was big on her bush tea, and she was big on eat your own food. And I watch her really bask in being very comfortable in her skin, rocking her own skin and her hair. So she really made an impression on me, right? And so when I just think of health, there's a conflict of interest. Those ways of the grandmothers, think about it. Right now, I'm in my little garden. I see tamarind, coriander, leaf of life, life everlasting, the different types of oregano, some of them that are good for opening the bronchioles, the cerasee, the aloe. My mindset has been open to all of those things because of my grandma. So I just have this thing about, if I had 3 grandmas that were in their 90s with good sense, that had great skin and had a pretty great attitude, I trust them more than I trust folks trying to sell me, peddle some snake oil to me, or trying to medicate everything. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a place with Western medicine. If I get hit by a car, give me some oxygen. But I trust more of my my grandma. I trust my juice and my grandma. And again, if I think of that guy FitTuber, the faith and the trust they have in Ayurveda, because they have traditions that are old. And we do know that pharmaceutical companies, they go and they study, they send folks out when they're working on their doctorates or dissertations, whatever, to study indigenous medicine. So I've often observed from a young woman that quite often people will, if you don't appreciate your culture, if you're not really grounded in your culture, folks will study your culture and then sell you back yourself at a profit. So I have this thing, I call it reenacting the ways of the mothers and the grandmothers, right? Because there's certain things and principle that we did. And I imagine if all of these grandmothers, if I had 3 of them, no, almost 100, right? That meant there was a time where they didn't have access to everybody else's stuff. There was a time where Afro folks couldn't shop with everybody. So they had to, all these women had some type of garden, and they didn't, I know they didn't waste. I know they didn't waste because they couldn't afford to waste. So for example, we might turn our nose up at a piece of fruit or vegetable that has a little mark on it, but I guarantee you've been in this garden for 4 months to get a harvest and working against, you know, the bugs, fighting off the bugs, the rain, hurricanes and stuff, you know, the amount of work and fertilizing. I guarantee you, you will not just be tossing something in the garbage because it got a little mark. You'll most likely cut a piece off or leave a piece for the bugs, and then you get the rest. So it really teaches you appreciation. So I really credit that wisdom and the keepers of that culture to the grandmothers. And it's usually the grandmothers who have an eye for, you know, for health and for patterns, who can recognize chicken pox or, you know, measles or mumps. A lot of that tradition is missing now. It's not being passed down. It's not being passed down. So number 3, right? Can radical self-acceptance of this cotton, right? What some people call ugly hair. Some people will straight up and down call this ugly. They'll be calling this ugly. Your hair is ugly. Somebody tell you that your hair is ugly, you don't even know anything about that when you're just walking around until you come in contact with other people who have been programmed. So number 3, which brings me to number 3, esteem. Can Afro women healing our esteem, cultivating, building a strong foundation of esteem, can it make a difference in the world? That may sound very grandiose, a difference in the world. Because when you have a healthy esteem, you walk differently, you carry yourself differently. All of your behaviors are different, right? So in just being able to be relaxed, what are the implications in you not being stressed out and not having stressed out moms, right? And keeping those economics, you know, within recirculating. That's a whole form of stress that we wouldn't have to deal with as much. But the esteem from knowing that we're being beautiful, when you feel beautiful, more than likely your sons will also see you, you know, as beautiful. As that, if that is strong culturally, if that is reinforced within your home. So there are tremendous implications, right? When you can put your hands in your scalp and enjoy the softness of your own scalp and what it feels like to just feel what is yours. Oh my gosh. The psychological, what that does for your psyche, you know, is tremendous. Number 4, still in line, I would say, with mental, emotional, even spiritual health, is, I would say, in terms of can this make a difference? This hair that many of us, where did we get the program? We were told that this is ugly, right? Just in not seeing ourselves represented, right? Never represented. If you got a million people and like a good portion of them is us, but we don't see ourselves represented, that's a message. That's a message that's being communicated. So I think modeling radical self-acceptance really from a space of joy, right? And it's not to be put upon anyone, right? Because we don't need one more thing to divide us, right? If this resonates with you. But I think it could really, really help, number 4, restore the dignity of Afro women. And we are starting to see a trend, even amongst the young students on the African continent, you know, taking more on, which it's interesting that it would be radical to return to natural. But you're seeing more young women and students return to natural, not like, oh my, because you couldn't afford some braids or something, but because like really enjoying the creativity, because we've always been creative with cornrows and different styles, and you know, more than ever with being able to use this technology to communicate with each other. This radical self-acceptance, I think, could be very healing in restoring the dignity that has been stripped from us in a global imposing on us of colonization, right? Where our minds were colonized. We're really tortured. So I would say collectively we've been experiencing a collective of post-traumatic colonization syndrome. I'm gonna call it, and it's a doozy. It's a doozy. It has us walking around internalizing self-hatred, or looking in the mirror and saying they were ugly, or having our children. We have this concept, this program, that calling each other ugly. It's horrible. But the possibilities for the restoration of our dignity and our peace and our calm, I would say that's a pretty phenomenal vision. All from accepting this here. Number 5, which I think could be groundbreaking, which I touched on a little bit in the beginning, is really, right, we have the principles of Kwanzaa, but and I don't know, just have this thing of afronomics, right, for it to expand on a much grander scale as a spiritual principle, right? Because I have come, and it's been shared with me from other folks, that I could think of 2 different groups of people. Dr. Claude Anderson touches on it in his book, Black Powernomics, an economic plan for, I think, Black Americans, or Black America, that in a discussion with some peers and colleagues, one of them was selling a product and wanted to have it carried in some stores, I guess some Asian groceries or whatever, and it had made several attempts. I may be paraphrasing here. You can check the book out for yourself. They made several offers, really taking the price down lower and lower. And they were wondering, like, well, why won't you do business with us? And the response was, culturally, we can't do business. We cannot do business with you because their allegiance, it didn't make them anti anybody else, but in being for themselves and really having a focus on their own economic health, right, and their own economic pulse. They had a principle, right, of making sure that their dollars circulated amongst themselves, which is just a simple, healthy principle of self-care, right? That's very healthy. And then also with another group that I've worked with, that would get on the bus to go to their own neighborhoods to shop with themselves. It didn't necessarily mean they were anti anybody else in order to be for themselves. So that type of self-care, right, I think really speaks to, I would say, something spiritual in terms of having a healthy perspective around wealth, abundance, money, instead of it always thinking outside, right? The dependence always on outside. I think it can have tremendous implications in terms of our, when I say spiritual in a very practical sense, our experience out here, right? On this plane, to have a healthy experience where we can do and move and have experiences we enjoy and afford things, that speaks to economics. And I would say Afronomics. If this is a $1 trillion industry, there are wide implications to improve the quality of our life and the enjoyment of life, just to circulating and developing products or standards for health and right around this hair, right around this beauty standard. So I think that could be really, really groundbreaking in terms of where that could go. So I don't know, the idea keeps sprouting off more and more in my mind. And I wanted to shout out, there's a subscriber on this channel named Aziza. Shout out Aziza. She asked a question in one of the previous videos when I first came up with the idea at Afronomics. And I mentioned Madam C.J. Walker. So she asked a question that I have asked, or that I have pondered myself, and did Madam C.J. Walker, who's known to be the first Afro woman millionaire, Black American millionaire, and she created beauty products and also the perm, or permanent relaxer. It was said she used potatoes and lye. Did she really help or hurt us? So the picture of Madam C.J. Walker I have in my mind is kind of like Tupperware or Avon, where there were businesses that Black women and Afro women were able to cultivate in the Americas and use networking, use the power, the principles of business and networking with each other and relationships and sharing information to become a millionaire in the times that she lived in. So I would say this, I think it's in terms of the glass half full, for me, what I've found is I take the best and I leave the rest. And I think just the principles of entrepreneurship and her confidence to just put herself out there, you know, during those times, I think was very groundbreaking. And I would say this, I'm all for her. I would say she did her part and she passed the baton. So now that we have more information about natural hair, and we have more options, and now that we can use technology to greetings, now that we can use technology to share more information, we got techniques down. We got shea butter, we have all kinds of oil concoctions, you know. The idea, at least what I'm putting forth or proposing with Afronomics, is to, you know, would we be willing to, this is the question, would we be willing to, or what will we be willing to do to circulate the economics that comes off of our crown, right? What would that look like, right? We've heard of the idea of boycotts. And again, this is not about being anti-anybody. It's more about being for ourselves. Would it be worth it for us? Would it be worth it for us to have a standard of, well, let's say, for example, like we see the Be Vegan or the kosher stamps on stuff. What would we be willing to do in terms of only supporting, well, let me see a way to put this, to recirculate that dollar around the standard of health and creativity, and making sure that our image is on the box, and make sure that this unique Afro texture, being that women have been so prioritized, that there's a standard of healing in terms of the imagery, the ingredients, and pretty much circulate it, not asking or requesting a middleman, but that we circulate that amongst ourselves. Greetings. So that's my idea. Been brewing for a long time on Afronomics, right? What are the possibilities? Because economics and security are a fact of life. I've traveled a little bit, and you know, it's really something to see women in Jamaica and women in different parts of Barbados and the Caribbean and New York and Belize, and you know, all over. There's many women that are struggling, right, and looking for jobs. But again, if we take the principle of Madam C.J. Walker, that went from door to door, and she enrolled other women, and you know, that's business coaching that she was doing. That was entrepreneurship. So she could become a millionaire back then. How can we take the baton and pass that baton, the principle of entrepreneurship and doing for self, and using our imagery? And we don't have to use heavy, harsh chemicals, because now we know better. There's a channel I know on YouTube called Green Beauty. I mean, we have folks that have done the work to study our hair porosity, low porosity, high porosity. Now you see many more black women and Afro women growing very long, lengthy hair and maintaining, right, understanding breakage of hair. So now we're able to have these lengths, and we're able to do wash and go now. And you know, on this channel I also really want to acknowledge those women with very fine, some people say thin, I like to use the word fine because I'm particular about the words and how they affect our esteem, with very fine hair that may be concerned about alopecia or thinning hair. You know, sometimes we can be so concerned that we actually wind up destroying the hair follicles from picking and giving ourselves traction alopecia from too much pulling and too tight hairstyle. So with the knowledge that we can actually leave our hair alone and it can flourish and grow and it can be beautiful, now that we know how to maintain it and keep it neat, and it needs minimal products. It doesn't even really need a whole bunch of shampoo. We can use stuff from around the garden. You know, as I say, I eat the fruit, the fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm eating them inside, and that's also what I'm putting on my hair and scalp, and I don't have any dandruff. And so, you know, I have been willing to retrain my eye, right, into accepting what's coming out of my hair. And so I celebrate the fact that it's coming in flat, and I found ways I can do my little bantu knots. You know, it's mine. I'm going to celebrate it, and this is a conscious choice. So AFROLOCS and afronomics, you heard it right here. Little quads of peaceful eating. These are my little humble, simple ideas. I think they can have tremendous implications. So y'all let me know what y'all think respectfully in the comments, right? AFROLOCS, do you think they could make a difference in the world? You heard my ideas. You're welcome to respectfully participate in the community conversation. Your contribution is welcome. So on that note, for those folks that have asked questions about my journey, if you would like to see, because I have mentioned I've had lots of acne and I have very fine hair, and I come from a family where there's a lot of obesity and diabetes and all the comorbidities that go with that. So there's a book, I don't even mention it, that I wrote quite a while back in my journeys in Central America, called Natural Beauty, No Products, because as someone who really enjoys whole living foods, unprocessed foods is a way of life for me. I threw out all of my products and my shower caddy, and I was just documenting some of the styles, because sometimes like I don't have time for it, but eventually I did save some of the pictures, right? Somebody with very fine hair. And so it's a book called Natural Beauty, No Products, because what was really painful for me was all of that acne, and my hair was linked to it in terms of stuff I had on my head running down into my face, even stuff from the health food store, plus it was very pricey. So Natural Beauty, No Products. And then also, so you can see there a lot of the food that I'm eating, some pictures of different styles that I've worn as a loose natural, as somebody that's not an avid corn roller, and who I enjoy doing my own hair, even though a few times I got some nice cornrows that I had been wanting for years. So there's Natural Beauty, No Products, and that's downloadable on the website. And there's also Whole Living Foods in the Hood with menus to fit your budget. So that particular book, that's a part 1. That's not so much recipes, but it is several budgets. There's several budgets, and they're also what whole living foods I bought at a particular price on these different budgets, whether that was $20, $50, $75, or buying in bulk at the wholesalers, and the different menus of, like, when you got all this fresh bulk food. Some people today might be like, what the heck am I supposed to do with all these fruits and vegetables? So I give you ideas for a menu plan, as well as showing you pictures and visuals of the food that I've been preparing for years and how I carry it and how I take my lifestyle of eating whole, fresh, unprocessed foods on the road with me. That's when I've traveled in the travel industry. I've maintained that for going on 12 years, 100% whole living foods. This year I have experimented during this whole pandemic with some steam things, and also when I went to a retreat and I was preparing for the first time for years some cooked, still unprocessed, but some lightly cooked sprouted things for people, and testing it out, which is also good to not be dogmatic about stuff, but I still love my whole living foods as my foundation. But if you'd like some insight into how someone that was a junk food junkie that comes from a family of obesity, food addiction, also trained as a chef, and have eaten every junk food under the sun, because I was a junk food junkie. If you would like some laser insight to shorten your learning curve, Whole Living Foods in the Hood with menus to fit your budget, that is also on body-culinary.com. So those tools and resources are available, as well as healthy eating for men, and also emergency food preparedness, and also like if there's an emergency, what do you do if you're eating whole living foods and you don't want to eat processed, right? So how I'm storing my food up during the course of the year, how I'm able to maintain, and even how I was able to grow some food even in a small apartment. So with that, I'm sending you all some warm positive vibrations from the garden. I'm gonna go get up and go help my sister water, because the lettuce is popping. We got parsnips, turnip greens coming, beets, some mammoth sunflowers, new cycle of tomatoes, more lettuce, arugula, lacinato kale, and we're planting more collards and broccoli rabe, and we have lacinato and Siberian kale, dwarf kale is coming. So I want to encourage everyone to grow something and to celebrate the unique cottony fro that is coming out of your scalp. Share this perhaps with someone that could benefit. You might even have some young women who you might want to sit down and watch some of these videos with. And it's great company when you're decluttering, going through old receipts and stuff, and you're decluttering, right? So, last thing, look out if for those folks that are interested in going into the cocoon. So the cocoon is like being very mindful of the use of social media, but a lot of the time we're spending on social media. We're transferring and transmuting that energy into cultivating a personal movement practice, aka exercise from your home, embarking on whole living foods, and ex-naying on the junk food with other ideas on how to literally maintain that as a lifestyle if you want your body to come to a healthy natural weight, and really pulling, I think really importantly, pulling energy away from a lot of things that have been draining our energy, whether that's relationships, social media. Just like if you can note that you feel drained and sluggish, and note that you've been siphoning, like there's a major leakage of your energy, putting all your energy and your life force out to other people, and it's like this is a perfect opportunity to turn within and reset your eating, starting a garden, and getting your movement practice on. Then that's what we're doing in the cocoon. So you're welcome to do that with your friends or as individuals. You're welcome to contact me about that on Body-Culinary. All right, y'all. Create a great day on purpose because you said so.